My name is Gints Zilbalodis and I'm the director of Flow. Flow is an animated film about a cat who's very independent. Then one day there's this big flood which destroys the cat's home. And the cat ends up in a small boat which he's sharing with a group of other animals. And the cat has to overcome two of his fears. One is the water, and the other is kind of working together with others. It's quite a personal story actually, because it's the first time I'm working with a team myself. I used to do films just by myself, and I also had to learn how to work together in a team. Just like the cat's kind of a story about making the film itself. This is a lot more complicated film with a lot of water, with a lot more characters, a lot more complicated effects and a bigger scope, so I couldn't do this myself. And I knew while I was making Away that I didn't plan to work like that forever. My intention was to make a film myself, to try everything, all the techniques and all the processes, so I could learn the basics. That was kind of my film school, making that film. And but I planned to work with a team, and I thought if I do everything myself, then it will be easier for me later to work with a team because I've done these things. I found it maybe more difficult working on this bigger scale, because when I was working alone I could work at my own pace, but this time I have a big team and a big responsibility, and people are asking me hundreds of questions every day. Yeah, it was quite stressful for me, but in the end it was also very rewarding. Basically in the story, all of the characters are in conflict, they're arguing a lot, but actual making of the film was a lot more smooth, and we didn't argue. We all worked together on the same film, basically. We didn't try to do different things. I think it's good when you're working in a team that you have to explain things, then they are more intentional. Everything is there for a reason, because when you're working alone you can be more instinctual, and I didn't want to polish it too much. I think some big films, because the team is so big, they might lose some of those imperfections, some of those rough edges, which I like. You can feel that they're handmade. So I wanted to have this balance where, yes, things are intended, everything is intentional, but also there are some moments where it's pure emotion. It's something that you can't really explain. You just have to feel it and experience it. We wanted to have this naturalistic style. It's not realistic, but we looked at reality, but we interpret it. The animals are behaving like animals, so we looked at references for everything, for every small moment, even just when the cat is turning its head a little bit. We find some references on YouTube, or we film, the animators would film their own pets and use that as reference. And I think with the animals they can be also quite expressive with the body language, how they move, and so a lot of the character was just shown by the way they walk, by these micro movements in the eyes. We spent a lot of effort making sure that the eyes are really well done. Dreamwell is our studio in Latvia, which we established for this film. And that was also a big new challenge for me, because I never worked in a studio, I've never worked in a company, and now I had to start my own company, and I had to figure that out. But I think maybe because I didn't know how things are typically done, we found some unique ways, and maybe that helped us to make something more different. I knew that we couldn't do this film just in Latvia, because there's not as huge as an industry as it is in France. There are not that many animators, especially 3D animators. There are more 2D animators, and so we had to teach some of these artists in Latvia as well and go through a long training process. But in France there's a huge animation industry, and I knew that it would be very helpful to work together. So basically in Latvia we did most of the things. The sound and the character animation were done in France and Belgium. And in Latvia we did the pre-production, the editing, the animatic, the concept art, and the post-production, the lighting, the modeling, colors, music. We had the French team in a studio in Marseille, but we also had the Belgian team who were working remotely. But I also went many times to visit the studio to meet the animators and to make connections, because I think it's important so that we trust each other. But I had to also be in our Latvian studio because I also had the team there. But I found it very easy, and they could send me videos and I could draw on them and send notes. And also the team was quite young. Again, we didn't have a huge budget, so we had to find creative ways. So a lot of the team, for them, it was one of the first projects they've done. And I think that helped also the film, because the team was very passionate. For me, it was also less intimidating. We were all kind of at a similar age. I didn't feel kind of afraid of working with these established professionals. We didn't have a big budget. We had to be very precise how we spend the resources, so we don't have any deleted scenes. It was important that when we go into production, we don't change it afterwards, because sometimes in animation they keep changing things. I did the animatic myself, and we didn't do any storyboards. I would just create the animatic directly in 3D. We didn't do a lot of concept art. We only did the things that are really necessary. Basically, when I'm doing the animatic, I create a rough version of the environment, very simple, and I explore the environment with this virtual camera, and I look for ideas and find shots. I discover things. I know that some artists and some filmmakers, they can really visualize the scenes in their head, but I don't have this ability. I have to discover them. And once I have figured out the camera, we only do the concept art later, and we design the things that are really visible in the camera. So we don't spend any resources on things that will not be in the frame. And we put detail only on the things that are in the foreground. We don't design something that's far away. Everything is designed from the point of view of the camera. I think that also kind of helps us to save resources. Also, I think it helps us because the look of the film, it's not realistic. We only put detail where it's necessary. I think it helps us in terms of the resources, but also creatively and visually. We didn't change any of the scenes while we were in production. There were some small adjustments, but we didn't change the story. We just changed some camera. And when the production started, I didn't see the very first version. Leo checked everything, and then once it was approved, then I'd give some notes, and it was really nice. It's like he's very intuitive in a way. It's like very creative. Yeah, when you're working on a production also, it's important that it's easy to communicate with the team. It's not just the professional ability, but the human aspect as well, which is very important. And for us, it was very smooth and easy. For me, it wasn't important to tell like this long exposition of this world, or how the flood happened, or where the humans. For me, that wasn't that interesting. It was more important to focus on the characters and their journeys, how they change throughout the story. So everything is built around all the environments. Everything is there for storytelling purposes, to kind of reveal what is inside the character's head, especially the cat. Because we don't have dialogues, we have to use the environment, we have to use the camera, the lighting to all express these emotions. Even though we leave some things ambiguous about the world, I think it's important that it's very definitive what happens to the characters, how they change, how they learn. Everything was built around that cat's journey of not just overcoming its fears of water or fears of others, but kind of learning how to live with these fears and accepting them, because I didn't want to have this didactic, simple message that being independent is bad and working together is good, because we also have this dog character in the film who is on this opposite journey as the cat, who in the beginning is very trustful of others and always wants someone to tell them what to do, the opposite as the cat is in the beginning. And throughout the journey, the dog learns how to be more independent. So it was important to show that the truth is somewhere in the middle. I wanted to give some hints about the past, what happened, where the people, but I'm not explaining it. I'm asking the audience to participate in the storytelling. There's a lot of environmental storytelling. You have to look and pay attention, and I think if you pay attention you will be rewarded. You will have a fuller experience, because I don't like to spoon feed the audience and explain everything. There were some challenges, but overall I think it was quite smooth, I guess. Because of my previous film Away, even though it wasn't like a huge financial success, but it was still a financial success because the budget was so small, so it still made back its budget. Because of the festival success, I think the producers really trusted me. Maybe they thought if there's a big catastrophe and we ran out of budget, I might still finish the film myself in some way. Still, it was a pretty small budget. Then it's less risky for the producers. What helped us to get the funding as well was we had a lot of visual material. We had the animatic that we could show the financiers and the producers. I think what was a lot quite scary for everyone, including me, was that we only had the finished look and the finished scenes quite late. Like we did some tests, but they were still a lot more simple and didn't have that everything figured out. So only very close to the premiere, everything kind of came together. We just finished Flow like literally days before the premiere in Cannes, and I'd never seen it with an audience, and that was like a big relief to see it in Cannes, and when people were laughing at the right places and responding correctly. So it means that not just they understand the film, but it's a more personal feeling that they understand me, because it's like a personal story about my own experience, and it's a very good feeling to know that you're understood. We were the only animated film in our program in Cannes. It's very rare that they select animation, so that was a big honor for us, and very quickly we found distribution in many countries around the world. And for Latvia it's a huge deal, because I think this will be the most widely distributed Latvian film. Maybe because it's animation, maybe because it's no dialogue. It helps us to really transcend some cultural boundaries. And the distributors are happy that they don't need to spend money on translations. And Annecy was amazing as well, because it's a crowd of animators, of young and passionate people, and that was also very emotional. Before with Away, I was just traveling myself and going to the stage myself, and that can be kind of intimidating to be alone on the stage, but this time we had the team, and it's really nice to share the stage with them. So it's been quite a lot. I'm still kind of processing the reaction, because I'm going from festival to festival and doing a lot of interviews and traveling, and so I'm still in the middle of the storm in a way, but I'm very inspired as well to work on my next films. I'm writing my next project while I'm traveling, if I have some free time, and so it's another animated feature film, but it's a little bit different than Flow, because I will have some dialogues for the first time ever, but it's not a lot of dialogues. It's only when it's necessary. I will work with actors for the first time, but I still want to do it kind of independently. I don't want to work with a huge studio, because I think with a smaller independent project we can tell more personal stories and tell them with more creative techniques and looks and cinematic languages. So I want to kind of stay in this independent world. I can't tell you much about the story because I'm still writing it, but it's a fantastical story. It's it's about people, not animals. There are some animal characters as well. But again, it's quite personal story to me about my own experiences and my fears and doubts and what I've learned. The technique will be a little bit different, and I think it's something that's never been done in animation, which I will not reveal yet, but it's a very ambitious and technically complicated technique.